the AWS for Software Companies podcast, episode 104, Partnership in Innovation, how ActiveFence and AWS are de-risking AI. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the AWS for Software Companies podcast, where we speak to software leaders around the world about their journeys to the cloud, overcoming obstacles, and the role that Amazon Web Services play in their success. Today, ActiveFence CEO Noam Schwartz discusses how his company evolved to helping companies deploy public-facing AI safely at scale.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Ofer Oringer. I'm an AWS account manager, and today I have the opportunity to host ActiveFence CEO Noam Schwartz. Welcome to the show, Noam.
Thanks for having me, Ofer. It's a pleasure to be here.
Before we start, Noam, can you please share with us about your professional journey?
Sure. I've been doing this in the past 8 years, and before starting ActiveFence, I had another company called TapDog that I sold to an Israeli company that eventually went public, named SimilarWeb. I ran business development, co-dev, started our expansion to North America and the rest of the world, and cut my teeth, learned a lot doing this journey. Before that, I was an intelligence officer, mostly around the open source intelligence space, and spend a lot of time understanding how things can go wrong online. And everything that I did back then led me to where we are today, that in 2018, starting ActiveFence with a bunch of my friends and partners to make sure that we're able to protect online experiences everywhere for every online product out there.
Thank you. I feel so much connected to this vision and the mission of the company, which will leading me to my second question about your current company, ActiveFence. You established the company in 2018. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Right.
And if you can dive deep and share some more information about the problem you were trying to solve.
So a lot of things changed. The internet changed, the market changed, the world changed. And when we set to start ActiveFence with the vision of making sure online experiences are safe and secure for everybody, for consumers, for companies, for advertisers, what we saw is that when you're looking at social networks, at gaming platforms, at file hosting services, dating apps, every application that is deployed in front of a lot of people, they're constantly being hammered by attacks. Those attacks can be cybersecurity attacks, but they can also be attacks on the users that are using them. It can be everywhere from child abuse and bullying and hate speech and spam and everything that makes you not want to use the product, things that makes you, feel terrible, things that hurt you in the real world. Think about terrorist content in 2017, 2018, when we saw it everywhere, disinformation attacks, all of those things that really hurt the companies, really hurt consumers, really hurt real life events, generated them in them. Now, we wanted to stop that. And that was 2018. We understood that those companies are playing a game of whack-a-mole. They're constantly looking for the next violation and trying to solve this specific gap. And we thought that we need to figure out a better way to do it at scale, to do it in that every time you fix something, it will not be back, to be able to do it in every language, in every format, to stop playing a game and really provide a real solution, real scalable solution. And that's exactly what we did. We developed a technology that was able to help some of the most sophisticated companies in the world. Very scalable, enterprise grade, was adopted by amazing names, including Amazon. And it worked.
Yeah.
it worked and it kept working and still working. And we're incredibly happy and fortunate to be able to be in this position, and also having like Amazon as a great partner of ours. But one of the things that also happened in the last few years is the deployment and more the introduction of generative AI.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, because of the nature of the technology that is not deterministic in nature, because if you think about that, when you're programming a chatbot, it does exactly what you tell it to do. There's a script. If this, then that. You know exactly what's supposed to happen. And if the chatbot is not doing what it's supposed to be, it's a bug. But when you're applying an LLM, every response is slightly different. This is how the technology works. This is the transformer. So you can say one thing and you'll get a response, and you can say the exact same thing again and you'll get a completely different response. And when such a cool technology is deployed in front of a lot of consumers, think about customer support, think about a chatbot of a healthcare provider, think about you're going to an airline, you're trying to buy a ticket, think about an NPC, a non-participating character in a game that is operated by a model that is speaking with a miner. They're applying LLMs in order to make the experience more fun and more compelling. But there's also new risks, because when you put Gen AI in front of users, like, things can go wrong and fast. Now, you're eventually letting a model speak on your behalf. And no matter how reliable it is, one bad output can lead to a legal risk, a reputational damage, user manipulation, you name it. So we understood that we need to help companies deploy public-facing Gen AI applications, like, safely, securely, and at scale. And that's a massive transition. From healthcare to finance to gaming and airlines and governments and global platforms. Helping those teams move fast, without fear, launch with confidence, build AI experiences that users can actually trust. And back to your question, building on our years of experience of working with the world's largest platforms that have trusted us to solve the toughest safety and security challenges for user-generated content across every language, every thread type, every format, in high-stakes environment. That expertise now is powering the most advanced platform for securing conversational AI in the wild. And that's what we do, combining real-time guardrails, red teaming, deep threat intelligence, protecting everything from customer-facing chatbots to AI agents to generative tools. And whether our customer is using a third-party model, deploying his own model, can use Bedrock, we make sure that AI doesn't just avoid, it actually creates a trusted experiences and protecting the brand and helping the companies, our customers, lead in the market. A very long answer to a very simple question.
No. Thank you for elaborating here. And can you tell us about the journey you went with ActiveFence through evolving to where you are today, from user-generated content to Gen AI-generated content?
So there wasn't a specific moment in time. When there was that ChatGPT moment where everybody started using it, the technology wasn't new for us. Like, ActiveFence was an AI company since day one. It was very clear that we have a massive opportunity to expand our offering that was catering for user-generated content to Gen AI. Because all of those weird things, like a car dealership selling a car for $1, and a kid getting bullied by a chatbot, and an airline selling tickets that they don't have, and a very long list of weird things that model created and real life harm that they generated, it felt exactly like the harm that user-generated content creates. And it was clear for us that we can help here. But the thing that really pushed us to move faster is that the model companies and the most important companies in the world, the companies like Amazon, companies like NVIDIA, companies like Cohere, basically told us, hey guys, you need to help us figure things out. You need to help us make sure that there's no gaps. And we realized that our knowledge, our data, our expertise, our scale, the infrastructure that we build, the technology that we build, the depth of the intellectual property, so relevant right now that we need to move as fast as possible.
I agree with you, and it sounds like you and us here at AWS sharing the same values, working from the customer backwards. And it sounds like your market is there, so this is why you're moving towards that direction. I wanna change a little bit the perspective of the call and discuss a little bit in a visionary and a thought leadership from you as an expertise around Gen AI, dealing with it on a daily basis. Maybe you can share with us how you see the top challenges in this era of generative AI, and maybe share some action you take in order to be on top of everything, which is so complicated those days with the rapid fast on the technology.
So those are like two things. Staying on top of everything is it's a personal and professional challenge. And after, let's say, 2 years into this space, what I can say is that people would get obsessed over understanding every single new development. But in the pace of progress today, this is probably the most discussed topic that we ever saw in the history of technology, when it also meets the way that people communicate today. And what do I mean by that? Think about technology development since the creation of the internet, that you can actually share a lot of ideas. We're at the peak of social media, where everything that everybody does is immediately being shared and discussed everywhere. And not just like on Twitter and stuff like that, on podcasts and more platforms for sharing articles. Everybody talk about everything all the time. Now this meets the most inspiring technology ever created. And that meets also generative AI, because everybody can create way more content and create more code. So think about this as a flywheel and a perfect storm, that you can create more content easily. Everybody are inspired by something, so they're all motivated to create more content, and they have, maximum platforms to share it with. So it's just like getting more and more and more. My conclusion is that it's futile to stay on top of things, but it's also, a lot of the things that are being released are not really worth looking into, because they're not relevant, by the time they're already released. So you need to be very selective in kind of like what you're following. There are 100 platforms to generate code, and 200 new models being released, and 300 new frameworks, and so many open source projects. It's impossible to follow everything. So what I do is I actually follow the customers. What customers actually do, what do they adopt, what's stopping them, what not, and this is how I decide what to look very deep into. Like I'm looking into the technology. So if there's real technological breakthroughs, so you'll find me there. I'm diving into this. When there's a real adoption of a technology, I look into that. But if someone just like releasing a new cool thing, this is not where I put my attention in.
So prioritization is a key, and I totally agree with you. And I love the fact that you mentioned also personal and professional life, which is super clear from my perspective. Maybe you can share some challenges you are facing with.
Yeah, so I think the challenges are more for, let's say, enterprises that are trying to implement generative AI in the wild. And their challenge is around trust, is around can they trust this technology, and would their customers trust them for creating a new type of experience. Because there's eventually it's a very simple equation. Everybody wants to use Gen AI, not because it's cool, because it can help you make more money or save more money or do more things in less time, which makes you do more money. So everybody wants to implement that to improve their margins, to improve their throughput, to create a real ROI. But not a lot of folks figured this out yet. And there's a reason why they didn't figure it out yet. Because their expectation of this technology is that it will be 100% accurate and 100% safe and 100% reliable all the time, no matter what. Even though you cannot expect this from a human being. Like if you want to AI to replace employees, but employees make mistakes, that's, we make mistakes all the time.
It's part of the journey.
Yeah, my SLA of mistakes is probably lower than the one of also ChatGPT 2.5. So why would I expect a model to do less mistakes than I am? But that's a philosophical question for a different time. But the thing is that it's all the main challenge is trust. It's like, how can I trust the model to do what I need it to do? How can I trust the model not to betray me and go let it talk in my behalf? Like, how do I make sure that it's not drifting around? How do I make sure that it's not making stuff up? How can I make sure the data that I'm giving the model is not finding itself with my competitors? And a very long tail of problems that emerge when you're applying such a technology. And that's a massive, massive issue for folks because they're not sure the technology is there. They're not sure they can trust it. There's so many things right now that are curbing the adoption, but I'm very happy to say that I'm seeing this like getting better and better day by day.
Because of companies such as ActiveFence, as I said.
Yeah, no, I agree. Thank you very much. Because of companies like ActiveFence, because of also like great products like Bedrock and others. But we started so fast a few years ago. Everybody were looking at this, and it takes time for the operators, and the engineers on the ground to play catch up with the market expectations. Usually, when prime ministers and presidents and CEOs are pushing for adopting a technology that engineers don't quite fully understand, there's going to be a gap between the hype and between the adoption.
And this is why we also see it here at AWS, that Gen AI and Gen AI security is an hot topic right now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can share some assumption you made early in the journey, and perhaps you revisited and adjusted afterwards, or some lesson learned that you can share with the audience around some things you thought about how Gen AI will evolve in our day-to-day life in your company.
I think there's a lot of folks in the road that the industry can take, and like I give you like a few examples. Just the value chain of model creation and platforms. So when a company is implementing Gen AI, they can license a model from a foundation model company, either from OpenAI, from Cohere, from Mistral. They run it, let's say on Bedrock or anything else, or they can build their own thing using Llama. My assumption was that most folks would eventually buy an existing model. This is still what I'm seeing, but this is an assumption that we're basing our marketing efforts around. There's another assumption that I don't believe that most folks would use specialized third-party agents in order to achieve specific goals. For example, when you want to implement customer support feature on your website, and I'm not talking about a small shop. I'm talking, let's think about an airline. wants to replace a live customer support person with an agent, would you trust a third-party agent to do it for you? Would you trust someone to decide how your virtual employee would sound like? What it would do, what it shouldn't be doing? How exactly are you going to design that experience? Now, my assumption is that eventually these experiences will be designed on the cloud provider services and not with a third-party independent company, because folks would want maximum control, maximum security, maximum safety, and this thing would be very hard to create when you create a lot of complexity. However, I do believe that the security and safety solution would be independent, exactly as it is today in the cybersecurity world. So if you see that you're using a cloud provider, but on top of it, you use a third-party cyber solution. You don't just rely on the service that is provided to you by the cloud provider, because you want to have agency on your own life, on your own faith, on your own path. Like you don't want to outsource that.
Exactly. By the way, we called it the shared responsibility model, because we take security as a job zero, but we understand that it's a shared responsibility one.
100%. This is exactly how I'm thinking about that.
Cool. I'm moving forward to the last part about your AWS experience, and you are in a very safe environment, so feel free to share. Maybe you can share with us how AWS support ActiveFence go-to-market strategy, and try to share some lesson learned working with the AWS team for our audience to take some insights from this discussion around this important topic, which I know that you guys invested in a lot.
Yeah. So, AWS has been so instrumental in our story, since day one, all the way to scaling today. It's hard to even begin. So, first, we're an ISVA, so we're selling with Amazon. Amazon is a customer, so we're a vendor of Amazon, and we're a massive customer of Amazon. So we have this very deep three-way relationship that is helping everybody. So besides enabling us to build our products like scalably and reliably, and making sure that our customers are happy, because we're dependent on Amazon to do their job, and so far so good. It's also this. I think the best experience that I had is that I feel that we're exploring the market together with shared set of values. Well, I work with many people across Amazon, from thinking about what Amazon customers need, to work together on the best value proposition for a mutual customer, to thinking about innovative technologies that we're developing for Amazon customers and for Amazon. And the sense of creation and the joy of innovation is obviously shared across the companies and across the cultures of the companies. And it doesn't matter who I'm speaking with in Amazon, which level, how senior, they all share the same thing. It's like, how can we do things to serve as many users as possible in the most reliable way, to provide them with as much variety and as much choices as possible, with the fairest price, with the best performance. And this is exactly how we're thinking about that. And how can we make our customers' life easy? How can we make them successful? And how can we give them as much choice as possible? And how can we be successful in the process? And having that shared set of values is instrumental for having like a successful relationship.
I can add to that one thing that I think that the other executive and CEOs and other AWS customers can learn from what you guys are doing is you are very acting, and which is super important, because sometimes the customer is expecting AWS to be the engine which sometimes that's the case. But I love the fact that you reach out to people, interacting with them, helping the account team and AWS to support your go-to-market initiatives. And as with security, it's a shared, it's a better together story, right?
Well, it truly is. Like as you know, it's like we're like a 300 people company, so it's easier for us to move fast. And sometimes, it's like we see Amazon better than Amazon sees itself, because we see different parts of the organization that we care about specifically. We're tiny, so it's easier for us to help people close the loop, and help the massive organization help us help the massive organization. So it's really important, and this is something that I learned recently. It's really important to learn how to work with massive companies, what to expect, how to operate them in order to really get real results. And it's like, and we're doing pretty good. So far so good.
Noam, thank you so much for joining us today. It was super insightful, and personally, I enjoyed it a lot. And hopefully, we will have the chance to do it in the future again.
Thank you so much for having me. It was terrific.
Thanks again for listening to the AWS for Software Companies podcast. For more conversations with global software leaders, follow this podcast in your podcast app of choice, and please feel free to share these podcast episodes to your colleagues, coworkers, and network on LinkedIn and other social media platforms. Thanks again for listening to the AWS for Software Companies podcast.